it's been a long day. A day like full of emotions. Really, there's a lot of things that have gone on today that have made me feel, I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know what I'm feeling right now. So let's go over them. Let's talk about it. So I told you guys earlier, today is my last day at H&R Block. I don't think, unless I have a client drop off specifically a tax return for me, I don't think I'll be back before Wednesday, just because of the rules and stuff that we have. So I was there today with a mask, my 4 hours, la da da, came home. Today, so technically Monday is, I'm officially resigned from the hospital. I don't even know where to start, to be honest. I have been so torn up about this, and I'm gonna try and get through this without like beating myself up, but without crying. It's just been a huge decision for me. So rewind to when I was about probably November-ish, end of October, when I was like 8, the beginning of 9 months pregnant. I had made the decision to take a full 12 to 16 weeks off with Everly, just like I did with the other girls. I had always planned on taking as much time off as I could. Of course, never thinking, didn't even consider the fact that I wouldn't be coming back due to a pandemic. Never in a million years would I had even had that across my mind. I had already been considering not coming back to the hospital. You guys know, if you've been a follower of mine for a long time, I've been part-time since I had Autumn. So I work anywhere from 1 to 2 days per week. Very rarely did I work a 3-day shift per week. I would work either 12 or 24 hours. And so I was not PRN, I was actually part-time 0.3, which I was obligated to at least 1 shift per week. And I was like that since I came back from maternity leave with Autumn, because prior to Autumn, I was night shift. Yeah, prior to Autumn, I was night shift. I came back from maternity leave, part-time, day shift. I worked night shift for just like the first, I don't know, couple of shifts that I worked from my maternity leave back from Autumn, and then I went to day shift, and like I said, I was part-time. So when that happened, it creeps me out. It looked like a person in the mirror. When that happened, I worked part-time. It worked out well. I always made sure I had just my 1 day, sometimes 2 days, like when all the girls went to school. When Autumn turned 2, she went to preschool, everyone was in school. I went to 2 days a week, and I worked from there. I love labor and delivery. I've been a nurse for 8 years now. I've been in labor and delivery 6 of those years, and I love it. It's my passion. It's where I always wanted to be. And it was really hard to make the decision to leave, but I had already been considering it for a long time. Like towards the end of my pregnancy, Andres and I had many conversations. I had been working on our budget super hard and just decreasing a lot and getting things, you know, broken down to where I could possibly, I knew I would make the decision while I was on maternity leave whether I wanted to come back or not. And I just kept battling it back and forth, and I finally came to the decision like mid-March, early March, I'd say, like early March, not mid-March, or the end of February, end of last week of February, first week in March, before spring break. I'd made the decision that I was going to come back. I spoke with my manager. I tried to get my paperwork submitted 3 different times to what is it, like HR and to employee health. I had to submit it to like where you submit your FMLA paperwork and short-term disability and stuff like that. And I only qualified, because I was part-time, I only qualified for short-term disability for 6 weeks. I only get paid for 5 of those weeks, and then after that I took leave without pay. So I only got paid for December. And then anything after that was completely 100%. I just was not getting paid. And, you know, it is what it is. I wasn't even technically on FMLA. I was on an unpaid leave of absence, just requested and granted unpaid leave. It wasn't even general medical leave. I didn't qualify for any of that because I didn't have enough hours in a year. So I made the decision to go back. I was just going to go back part-time, and I told Andres, I was like, I'll just do 1 day a week so that I don't have to be away from Everly. I can still spend time with him and the girls and all that. And I kept trying to submit my paperwork. I had to get my doctor to fill it out twice. I had to fax it over to time away from work 3 times. They misplaced it the first time. They submitted it incorrectly the second time. Finally got it the 3rd time, but employee health would not see me until the paperwork cleared. So I was waiting. I was actually supposed to be on the schedule today, and clearly I didn't go to work. So I made the decision. I still really, like, even after I kept thinking to myself, you know, like, I feel like, why am I having to work so hard to get my paperwork in? Why does it keep happening over and over? And I mean, I'm not like huge into the whole universe type thing, but a little bit, you know, I kind of felt like, who's telling me not to do this? Because I'm having to work really hard to get my paperwork submitted to go to work, and it shouldn't have to be this hard. I know they need me at least 1 day a week. I could see it on all our posts and forums and everything, and I just couldn't. Everything was like falling out for me. Every time I turned around, I was having to resubmit something because somebody didn't get what they needed properly. So anyway, it still hadn't gone through, and spring break hit, and the end of spring break came, and we got announced school was, you know, being extended. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not scheduled till April 11th. My paperwork should be in by then. It should be fine. The kids should be back in school. Really didn't think it was going to go much further than that. Kept going. And I was like, okay, they're extended again. Like, what am I going to do? You know, I kept seeing how serious this was getting on the news and from the girls that I worked with before at the hospital. And everyone's like, man, it's getting crazy here. We're running out of PPE. People are hoarding things. People are doing this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, really? Like, is this that serious? This was like mid-March. Just kept going. And it started to get even more serious. And the girls got extended for the entire month of April. And at that point, I was just seeing like how much risk it was to go to work and to expose your family to those types of things. And I couldn't take the risk. You know, I just kept telling myself, like, it's not worth it. I was only going to go back 1 day a week. I was already contemplating not going back, and this is that much more reason. And at this point, my paperwork still hadn't gone through up until the day that I put my 2 weeks. In fact, I haven't even heard back from time away from work about my paperwork. I sent them a follow-up email letting them know that I ended up resigning, that I didn't need the paperwork afterwards, and they never emailed me back. So I chalked it up to like people were taking leave of absences and stuff due to COVID-19, and maybe it was just like backlogged. I didn't really know what happened. I still don't. My manager never got the paperwork she needed to submit to employee health for me to go back. So I officially resigned March 30th. And I mean, it just kind of like hit home for me. Even when I was talking with my manager, I called her and I was like, yeah, I can't figure out my paperwork. She's like, I know, we've been going back and forth. I don't know what's going on. She's like, it's kind of crazy. You know, maybe it's just they're backlogged and stuff. And I was like, I know, but I either need to come back now, or like the longer I stay home, the more I am considering putting my 2 weeks. And she's like, you know, honestly, having a newborn, you're probably better off. And that just like, for her to tell me that, for her to almost encourage not coming to work because of how serious the whole thing is, really like hit home for me. And the next day I said, you know what, I really appreciate your honesty. I do, and I have to resign. It was so hard. I mean, clearly today is the 12th. It hasn't even been a full 2 weeks yet, and I'm like still really torn up about it. I tell Vanessa every day, like, I don't know if I did the right thing. I don't know if it's something that I'll regret one day, like not being brave enough to stick it out. But it's not even about that. It's, I'm worried about my girls. Like, I'm worried about my family. It's bad enough that Andres has to be out of the house every day to go to work. He's our primary source of income right now, and I couldn't risk for one day a week for, it's not like I'm going back to work full time and we relied on our income. We've already been without it for, you know, almost 4 months now. It's not like I was making a huge amount at the hospital anyway. I was working one 12-hour shift a week. So it's not like that money was going to make or break us. It would be different if I had to go back full time and I was considering losing a $70,000 position. You know, it wasn't about that. It was more about, I have to quarantine myself. How am I going to do that and stay away from the girls and not, like, knowing that I'm in the thick of it? I mean, yes, Andres goes to work, and yes, he's around people, but he's not directly dealing with sick people. He's not walking through a hospital where sick people are walking in, possibly without masks, and spreading it to other people. And so it's not, I didn't know how we were going to handle it. I didn't know what we were going to do, and it just wasn't something that I was willing to take the risk at right now, especially having a newborn and having I'm the primary caretaker. It wasn't worth it to me. So I resigned. And so today was really hard because not only was I supposed to be at the hospital today, but I'm officially done with H&R Block as well. And I'm unemployed. Like, I've never not had a job of some sort, you know, like, ever. The only time I've ever been off is when I've been on maternity leave with the girls. There was, I'm lying, really. There was a little 3-month period between H&R Block and starting at the hospital that I was off for 3 months. I did not have a job. So I was like in the process of getting hired at the hospital, and I had just finished with H&R Block. But there's no prospect in my future. The soonest that I would have a job at this point would be next tax season in January. And I don't know. I mean, I still have YouTube, and I have Color Street, and I have my little tiny baby Etsy shop, and I have school. I was trying to think what else I have. School. And I have all my girls, and they're home and they're safe, and I know I can always be there for them here to keep them safe and not expose them to anything while Andres has to go to work. And we're just gonna have to make it work, you know? I mean, it's not, income wise, it's not any change really, because we've been living like this for months, and even one day a week was not making or breaking anything for us. But it was just a huge adjustment emotionally for me. Honestly, I feel like, and I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll get ripped apart for this, but I feel like a coward for not going back to work. I feel unproductive without having a job. And I know for some of you that are stay-at-home moms, like, I'm not 100% not trying to bash anybody, because staying at home is a freaking hard job. It's like the hardest ever. But I've always told myself, like, I'm not cut out to be a stay-at-home mom. And here I am, officially a stay-at-home mom. It's crazy to say that, because I honestly never really, I've always worked since I was 15. The month before I turned 16, I was 15. I worked at Sonic Drive-In as a car hop. I've never, like, not had some sort of job. Most of the time I had multiple jobs, and I just, in some aspect, have always worked. And yes, like technically I'm still bringing in income from YouTube and like my little side gigs and stuff, so it's not even about that. It's just the fact like I'm not a productive member of society. Does that make sense? And maybe to some of you that have been in this position before, where you've gone from working to staying home, or you've been staying at home for a long time, and maybe like your kids are growing up and they're leaving you and you're like, maybe I should go back to work. Like I just feel like I'm in this gray period. It won't be for long. I start clinicals in September. I mean, again, like if I had gone back to work, I was already thinking about quitting when I start clinicals, because clinicals is a huge commitment. It's an 11-month period. I start in September and I don't finish until August of next year, and it's a huge commitment. You're working anywhere from like 24 to 36 hours per week for free to learn. So you're working in a clinic for me because I'm in family nurse practitioner school, and so if I'm working 8-9 hour days at 36 hours a week for free, here I am out of the house 4 days a week working with no pay. So I had already considered quitting in September, like even if I went back, but then when this whole thing happened, it just was, I feel like even more of a sign. I couldn't get my paperwork to go through. It's just like, you know what, I'm doing what's best for my family, but I feel like crap. In the meantime, I honestly can't shake this feeling. And then on top of all of this, I cannot keep my weight fluctuation under control. I really think it has to do with breastfeeding and pumping, and how like uncyclic it is for me. Like some days I'll produce more, some days I produce less, and I feel like it really is because, man, I feel like there's a face there again. That's weird. I feel like it's really because of my eating. Whether I'm eating too little, like I'm cutting too many calories on certain days so I make up for it on other days or whatever. And the whole thing, like my I don't know if it's because of stress, but like my body isn't producing very much. Everly just doesn't really latch for very long anymore. She'll latch in the morning for a little while, but nothing like she used to, and it just has dwindled so much. Just like day to day, I feel like it's getting worse and worse. Even pumping, I'm just not producing hardly anything. Some days even like drops while I'm pumping, and it's very depressing. I mean, depressing in the sense that it makes me sad, and it's just one more thing. It's like, man, I feel like I'm failing. Anyway, I came on here to talk to you guys about this because I actually have gotten a few questions about work, and I haven't brought it up because I really wanted to make sure like my 2-week period completely went through before I even shared it, because I didn't want to share it and then be like, oh no, guess what, I'm going back to work. No, they already kicked me out of the system and stuff, and so it's official. But luckily I did, and it's true, if this clears up, and I don't foresee it clearing up anytime soon, but if it happened to, I could go back to work at any time. And if something happens to Andres's job, I would go back in a heartbeat, and at least I know somebody would be here with the girls, you know, that could keep them safe and stuff. And I know I'm just beating myself up for no reason. I've already heard it from everybody that I've talked to. Everybody. But I can't help it. It's just, you know, I'm trying really hard not to make anybody feel bad either, because like I said, staying at home with 4 children, being in school full time, like those are jobs. I'm not trying to knock them, but I've always been able to handle my children, school, because I feel like I've been in school forever, and a job, and been fine. And so just like slowly cutting out certain things, it just makes me really sad. So anyway, I'm sorry that this was 20 minutes long worth of crying and feeling sorry for myself, and probably some of you don't even care, or maybe you do feel like I, you know, am failing a little bit, and maybe you can relate to it, and maybe that's not what you feel like. And whatever your feelings are, really, I probably have thought all of them about myself at one way, because I go so from one far spectrum to the other. I feel like a coward, like I should have stuck it out and been brave for my nurses. And then the other sense, I'm like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm thinking about myself and my family. And like, what's so sad is like, that's what everybody at work is being told. Everybody in this field is being told, take care of yourself first. You make sure you have your proper equipment on. You make sure you have that mask, those gloves, before you even go check on that patient. And patients are dying because of it. And I just keep thinking like, I'm putting the mask on myself first, but it's tugging at my heartstrings in the meantime, you know? So anyway, I feel like I've cried so much the last like a year on freaking YouTube. Like, I need to get it together. Anyway, I'm calling it a vlog. I'll feel better tomorrow. We're doing Easter. I'm very excited. I'm excited to see the girls. I'm super sad to be away from my family, but I am very excited to see the girls. They're very excited. It was super cute. My mom, they called my mom and stepdad to thank them because I told you my stepdad sent them that Carnival Nintendo Switch game. So they called to talk to them and stuff. And my mom, of course, she was crying because we're just a bunch of criers. I never used to be a crier, in case you're wondering. Never. As I've gotten older, especially since I've become a mom, I cry a lot more. Anyway, I was so tough growing up. Like, I never cried. I would always tell my mom, like, you're such a baby, why you cry so much? And now here I am blubbering like a baby. But anyway, Maddie was talking with my mom, and my mom was like, yeah, maybe the Easter Bunny will come tomorrow. And Maddie was like, but because of the coronavirus, it's okay if he doesn't. You know, I understand. We all understand. It's okay. And my mom just started bawling, and she's like, that's like what it's about. And of course, Easter Bunny did come, and they're gonna get eggs and stuff, and my family's going to get to see it on Facebook or whatever, and it'll be fine, and it'll just be a distant memory in the future, you know. But it's just like, I feel like the world not only is crumbling around me, but directly for me, and in some of the decisions I've had to make and stuff. And breastfeeding's going by the wayside, which again, all these things are like, I should be proud of myself that I've made it to, I released almost 19 weeks. Like, I should be proud that I've even made it that far. It's way further than I made it with the other girls. But I can't help but feel just a tiny bit like a loser right now, you know? I don't know. So anyway, I'm going to bed. I need to get some sleep. We're going to be up early hiding eggs in the morning for the Easter Bunny and seeing the girls' bright, beautiful faces. So thanks for joining me today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for just being there. It's going to be a YouTube world from now on, because I'm no longer a labor and delivery nurse for right now. Hopefully better things are to come. And oh my gosh, I'm no longer a tax preparer. I'm unemployed. That's what my self-employed maybe is better. I don't know. I gotta go to bed. I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you tomorrow.